I had the craziest dream last night. I was curious if you could analyze it with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was driving my car, and then I had a premonition, a thought, and this is all the dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
That if I went in the passing lane and passed this car in front of me, that I would end up getting in a car accident and being stuck in between the car I was passing and the median.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into it and I started passing, and the accident started to happen. And then while the accident was happening, my mind was like, yeah, but these are all thoughts still.
Right.
And then I was in it, and it was like, oh, you have a choice to pull out or to
Mm-hmm.
stay in this. And it was the most, I wish I had the right words to describe it, but it was like the most assimilating, non dual thing I've ever experienced. And it was in my dream state that I experienced it. And I was just like, God,
Yeah.
this is bonkers.
Yeah.
That the actual action had become thought, or that I remember, because I used to always be afraid of my thoughts. I used to be like nervous I could manifest stuff, or I could, and so it was
Mm-hmm.
almost like my thoughts were saying that if you move over, we have a feeling, Kristen, you're going to get in a car accident. And then it started happening. It just was crazy how they
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Um, um, yeah, as it happens, I've been having a number of experiences like that myself lately, um, where I'm in the dream and there'll be some kind of sometimes it'll be some kind of an uh-oh situation, and realizing that uh, oh, wait, this is not good, and then realizing no, it's okay because I'm creating all this, and I'm creating it this way. I can choose to create it that way. But being in the dream and being out of the dream at the same time. Um, and so the stuff is really real. It's really happening. I'm really experiencing it. But it's almost like there's a part of me that's on the stage being the character engaging in the plot, and there's a part of me that's out in the wings seeing where all the pulleys are for the the special effects and all that, and grabbing the ropes and changing them. Now the the traditional teachings all recommend finding exactly the space that you're talking about, and playing around with exactly this kind of choice making that you're talking about. Um, and yeah, it's fun. It's funny. It's cool, and it's not just some little funny kind of parlor trick kind of thing. It's actually deeply significant in the context of our meditative path, because what you're experiencing is, oh, all this stuff that seems so real, right? When I'm in it, it seems so real, and it certainly seems like it's made out of matter. And if my car made out of matter collides with this medium that made, it's going to be bad. All this stuff is non-okay. And that's the one part of it. But it's just like Walt Whitman wrote, both in and out of the game, both in and out of the game. And you have to have both. So for for this thing to work. So there's that going on, and then there's the part that sees it's the game, it's the dream. So okay, I can change it, or I can just rest in the place of it not mattering. Right now, all of this is significant because it's like building up those muscles, so to speak, building up that kind of recognition for this environment, this waking environment, where there's all this stuff that appears to be made out of matter, all this stuff that appears to you know be so not okay, um, that it seems like, oh, it can't possibly be just stage effects, just made out of consciousness. Uh, In the dream, we realize we can manipulate the what all the objects in time and space are doing because they're not made out of matter, they're made out of our consciousness, right? Or
Yeah, that was like doing it in the studio versus
yes,
that was really, you're right. That was really cool. It was dead on.
yeah,
It felt like my first experience in that truly, yeah, Walt Whitman state.
yeah,
And it was like a little safe training ground of like, oh, it's okay. You're just in the dream state. It's not a
right,
real, but
right.
yeah.
And in the Tibetan teachings, they have all these teachings to deliberately cultivate that kind of thing, and then make these choices. Like, okay, you can go into the pond or you can go into the fire. Go into the fire.
Can
So that
you
so
start
that
doing
you.
those with us?
I'm sorry.
Can you start doing those with us?
I don't have the
Come on,
expertise.
Dean, work our muscles.
Yeah, yeah, but no, but you've found that space. And really, that's the main thing. Just feel your way. I would say feel your way into that space. Like as we were saying a few minutes ago in the context of another question. All this stuff. It's the most natural thing in the world. And all the Tibetan texts and everything, they're basically grabbing hold of this stuff that's the most natural thing in the world, and just bringing a little more clarity to it and a little more of a kind of techniquey approach to it. Um, but the point is that we're gaining that perspective so that then we can come out to this one. What Yogi Vasishta called the long dream, and discover that this one also is made out of consciousness, and that this one also we can maybe, I mean, there's all these stories. The Tibetans have all this incredible lore about yogis who, fly from the one mountaintop to the other and live without eating, and I mean, who knows how literal that stuff is? Who, when they die, they dissolve their bodies into rainbow light, so all that's left is their hair and their toenails and fingernails. And there are people who in our lifetime claim to have witnessed that. Where the old lama is about to die, and he says, "Okay, just leave me alone in the tent here." And then some days go by, and one day they see a bunch of rainbows coming out of the tent, and they come back, and there's the nails and the hair. I mean, who knows? Um, um, but to me, what's more significant uh, than manipulating this world because you've gotten out, you found your way out into the wings where all the levers are. Um, and in fact, in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, where Patanjali lays out all these similar in right. I was just now talking about Tibetan tradition. Now this is in the Indian tradition. In Patanjali, all these he gives you all these formulas. You're asking, me to do just look up Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and they'll tell you, okay, you want to levitate. Here's what you do. They're all mental techniques. You want to understand the speech of all the beasts and the birds. Here's what you do. All these so-called siddhis, Siddhi, all these siddhis, these powers, and he lays them all out. But then he says, then the punchline is, but the enlightened yogi does not revolutionize the world. Right? You think, oh, learn all this stuff. Good. I'm gonna make a big bag of money appear in my room. I'm gonna, whatever. He says, but the enlightened yogi, does not revolutionize the world because she sees why things are the way they are. Right? There is a certain, if we want to use the term, karmic rightness to things being the way they are. A certain momentum, a certain the movie playing out the way it needs to play out. You can see that people are learning the lessons if we think back to all the experiences, I mean, Kristen, you and I, everyone else here in the group tonight, right? Think back to the experiences that you've learned the most from, that have shaped you the most, that have pointed your life in the directions you needed to go, how many of those were things that you would have chosen? Right? Probably not many. Right? So, by the way, you're muted, Kristen. Um, so, yeah, not many.
I mean, I was going to say in a nice way, I was like, well, doing Dean's Zoom calls was one that just slowly changed my life. I was like, I
Yeah,
chose that.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So some of them, yeah, some of them. Um, uh, it doesn't all have to be stumbling accidentally into the right. Uh, um, See, but to me, what's coming back to that dream experience, as I said a few minutes ago, there's kind of two aspects to it. One is, oh, this whole incipient, car crash is all made out of my consciousness. Therefore, I can manipulate it. I can change it so the cars don't crash. That's fine. That has some significance. To me, what has more significance, and what seems to be happening more for me with my dream experiences, is not manipulating the dream, but even while I'm in it, at the same time that, both in and out of the game, seeing that it's all made out of consciousness, so it's okay even if the cars do crash. See, to me, that's what's significant, and that's what has the real lesson that carries over into this world. Of course, you do everything in this world you can to take care of your family and don't crash your car, and tend to your health, and try to make it a better world. All of that. But at the end of the day, we practice. We've had a lot of practice in our meditation, being with what is, and settling into being with what is, and finding the essential okayness of it all. Even though at the surface there's all this not okayness, the depth of it, the essence of it, is this okayness, which you can't explain to people. You can't explain to people how those two things can coexist, because if they haven't experienced it, they're used to okayness being conditional.
Right.
There's okayness is present if this and that condition, or if these boxes are checked. And here we experience, we can have a whole bunch of boxes unchecked, because when we sit and we melt into just being, you know, all the other stuff, your long COVID, your financial problem, your whatever, the relationship thing, this and that, that's all out there somewhere. And oh, here's this okayness, and more that comes back into daily life with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the theme is, as I've met you, that I've struggled with is the both the preciousness and the fear of my own thoughts, which is why I, particularly felt kind at your weekend retreat with the nice young man that we had that also seemed very heady, is because I have always been a little nervous that the thoughts could, create things from happening. And this dream, I think in particular,
Mm-hmm.
really shined a light on the end result is still okay. No
Yeah.
matter what you're nervous, your thoughts are going to do, or getting in, oh, I created the crash or I didn't create the crash. It's all still, the dream ended just during the crash. It was like
Right.
so unclimactic. It wasn't like I chose to get out, or I was just still bumping around in there.
Right. Right.
That was it. So that's life.
Yeah. The you know the thing to remember, kind of at the beginning and at the end, and also in the middle, is relax. Things are fine. Right. And everything else is kind of a footnote to that.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, okay. Good. Thank you, Kristen.